Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another discussion video. Today I want to talk about 10 cards that I just happened to peruse over and remember when I was going through my collection binders. These are 10 cards that I think are going to be great eventually. You might agree with me, disagree with me. If you guys want to pick up any of these cards, do so at your own risk. I'm not a guru. I don't know these cards are going to be great, but I have a feeling, and I'll explain more of that as we get into the video. But if you do want to pick up any of the cards, use my link in the description to TCG Player. It does help the channel out a great deal, and make sure to subscribe. With that, we'll get into the video. Alright, first card I want to talk about, Dark Mask King Pursuit of Power. 1-drop 4K battle card. Permanent if your opponent has 2 or more energy and 1 or more battle cards in their warp. This card gets plus 6,000 power and can attack your opponent's battle cards in active mode. Decent little additional effect, but that's not the important thing here. The other one is the activate main for 1 black. If your opponent has 5 or more cards in their warp, choose up to 1 black King Vegeta Xeno card with energy cost of 6 from your deck or hand. Play it on top of this card in active mode, then shuffle your deck if you look through it. So this one, I think after reading it, it's a little bit obvious why this card is in this type of video. This card, as of right now, it was released in set 13, so just recently, it only has 1 target to play, and that's King Vegeta, A Kingdom Lost, which is an excellent card, absolutely great card. But I think this card is, not really worthy of seeing play right now because there's only 1 target to play with it, and that target can already be played for very, very cheap. If this is like a 1-drop that maybe also drew a card, or maybe drew a card instead of having that permanent, I think you could see this seeing play in a lot of black decks beside the King Vegeta Kingdom Lost. But the fact that there's only 1 valid target to play with the card makes it very difficult to play as a standard 1-drop. But yeah, as more King Vegetas of cost 6 come out, I think this card will become a lot better. And with set 13 just coming out and giving us our first King Vegeta Xeno cards, I'm sure there'll be many, many more down the line. So this is a card I would recommend picking up in foil because right now it's got to be super, super cheap, being a common foil from a main set. Those are usually very cheap. So get your foil playset. Definitely highly recommend it. I think this card will be very, very good as more King Vegeta Xeno cards come out. Next up, we're talking about Pan Heroine's Victory. Super weird champ pack unison that came out, but let's get a quick read. So it's a 1-drop green unison with 6k power. Auto at the end of a turn where your leader card activated a blocker skill. Add a marker to this card, then add up to 1 green skillless battle card from your drop area to your hand. Activate main for +1 at the end of the turn. Switch to one of your leader cards that's either mono green or has Heroine to active mode, and it gains blocker until the start of your next turn. So right there, those 2 effects are why this card is so weird. They revolve around giving your leader blocker. So at the moment, you can play this with any mono green leader, and you can play it with a Bulma Heroine leader, but there's no real like green leader in the game, and the Heroine leaders do it either. Those leaders just don't really get the maximum benefit out of becoming blockers. It's a really, really niche effect, right? Let's read the -2 real quick. Activate main until the end of your opponent's next turn. They can only attack 1 time with battle cards with energy costs of 4 or less. So a cool little floodgate effect there. But yeah, back to the main like giving your leader blocker thing. That's the really, really weird part about this card. But I do think that, they'll eventually print a leader where you're gonna want to give it blocker. It's gonna be maybe a leader that is 20k in your opponent's turn, or has some sort of benefit when it's attacked, right? So if there are any cards or leaders like that come out in the future, this can be a really, really interesting card, right? Where you can proc that auto to gain markers very, very early. Your leader gets a big benefit out of becoming a blocker, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna have to print another Heroine leader at some point in the future, because that Bulma leader is okay, but its draws are just a bit too dependent on your ability to play battle cards, which, being in a black deck, yeah, you can play Senzu Bean, but you're not the most energy flexible deck. So I think down the line we'll get a new Heroine leader, like maybe a launch, maybe an Android 18, something along those lines. But yeah, this is a card I would definitely recommend looking out for because it is a champion pack promo. So with that in mind, if this card does become good, it can shoot up in price. So just like a little disclaimer, again, I'm not telling you to go buy this card. I'm not your DBS financial advisor by any means, but it's just something I'm thinking about. Want to share my thoughts with you guys. Next up, we have SS Trunks Altering the Future. 3-drop unison with dual attack. For +0, you choose one of your opponent's battle cards and switch to rest mode. If that card has an energy cost of 4 or less, negate its skills for the turn and KO it. So some removal there. For +0, I wish it was a +1, but it is a +0. Activate main, -3, draw 1 card. Then choose all your opponent's battle cards in rest mode. and KO them. So that's where I think this card is really going to shine in certain formats. And I really don't think it's gonna be anytime soon. So firstly, why is the card good? Well, yellow has struggled with removal for almost its entire existence, right? So having a -3 that draws 1 and board wipes, the card replaces itself. So it's essentially like you're just tapping 3 and spending no cards and just wiping all your opponent's battle cards in rest mode. So that's a really great skill. It does help yellow with one of the things it's been missing for a long time, which is a good form of removal. And throwing a board wipe on top of that is great. The thing I think about this card where it's not going to be amazing anytime soon is that I just don't think this card is going to be very necessary in Mecha Frieza decks. And until something happens with Mecha, either it gets banned or errated or, you know, in some way, shape, or form gets power crept out, I don't think Mecha is necessarily going to need a card like this to serve as mass removal. But if the yellow power hierarchy shifts in any way in the foreseeable future, again, I'm not saying Mecha needs a ban or errata, that's a discussion for a different video. But if something happens to the yellow power hierarchy where Mecha is no longer the automatic best yellow deck, I can see a 3-drop yellow board wipe being very, very good in yellow decks like Kid Gohan, like Future Gohan, like the Android deck that just came out in set 13. I can see this being a very, very good powerhouse. So just wanted to get that across to you guys. Then we have Altered Reality. So this is a 1-drop field card, very simple. When you play it, you draw 1, and all Janembas in your battle area gain barrier. So when this card was first revealed, it was decently hyped up because people were trying to mess around with the Infernal Janemba chain, and it saw a little bit more hype recently. I believe it was set 12, where the Janemba Skillless chain came out, and people were trying to experiment with that. But the awkward thing that people realized quickly after was when you give a skillless Janemba barrier, it's no longer a skillless battle card, so it actually has really bad synergy with the strategy. It also doesn't work on your Janemba Xenos. But the point of this card is, if they ever print another Janemba archetype, which Janemba seems to be a really big fan favorite and a really big favorite of the designers, so if they ever print another Janemba archetype that has more competitive viability, I can see this card being incredibly good. Like, let's just say they make a go wide spam version of Janemba that maybe just spams like 15, 20k battle cards. Well, we've seen strategies like that all the time with like Vegex, Bardock's Crew, Storm back in the day. We've seen a million strategies like that. But if you throw Altered Reality into the mix and now you're, you know, 1-drop 15s, 2-drop 15s, 2-drop 20s, all these like little battle cards all have barrier, that would be kind of insane, to be honest. And we already have like combo attack Janemba, and there are already ways to spam the skillless Janemba cards. So if a strategy like that ever came out, it would be pretty solid to give them all barrier where you don't necessarily need them to be skillless anymore. Vice versa, if they come out with a new Janemba chain where it sits on a really big Janemba boss monster that isn't a Janemba Xeno, this card can be great. It's a turn 1, draws a card for the rest of the game. It's a really hard card to interact with. You have to be green with field removal or playing blue with like Xeno Unison to wipe this card. And your boss monster has barrier now, so that's a really good card. I think this card can definitely be good in the future given the right support. Wanted to let you guys know that. Then we have a combo of cards here: Majin Buu Tide Turning Absorption and Prodigious Absorption Majin Buu. So long story short, when Majin Buu gets killed out of your energy, you can basically go into this process of playing Prodigious Absorption Majin Buu. Now this is a combo that I really liked coming out of Evolution Booster. I thought this was a really cool thing they did here. My first thought, I mean, obviously you can play this with the actual Buu leader it's intended to be played with, but my first thought for like the coolest way to mess around with this strategy was Blue Zamasu from set 10. Now, the only minor problem with that is there's no perfect way to put this in your energy with like the Xeno Unison, right? There's no great way to stack top of your deck and then use Xenos +2 to put this in your energy, right? Because you can, of course, manually charge this card and then use Zamasu's ability to kill it out of your energy, but that's not the most efficient way to do it. If you had another way to put this in your energy by a skill and then your leader could remove it from there, that'd be great. So my point is, if a card or combo comes out that allows you to do that in the Zamasu leader, or another leader like Zamasu that has an ability to kill cards out of your energy comes along, that could be a really cool thing to throw this little engine in. It's a really small engine. You play 4 Tide Turning Absorption, you play maybe, I don't know, 3 to 4 Prodigious Absorption, and then you play some number of Go Tanks, which there are just Go Tank super combos you can very easily play, so that's not going to be too much of a hard thought slot to pick up, right? So with that in mind, if you're able to pull this off, you basically get a 1 energy Obuni that, yeah, it doesn't spam 3 tokens, but over the course of several turns, it's a barrier battle card with good protection that can spam a lot of tokens over the course of several turns. So I like this combo a lot. I'm just looking for the right leader, the right strategy to play it in. Wanted to let you guys know about that as well. Then we have Frieza Army Healing Pod. So this card has been very close to being broken a few times now. The main one was with the Frieza starter deck that came out with the Unison Warrior block, right? It pretty much became apparent that Frieza Army Healing Pod was a staple of that deck. Basically, the deck had super easy capabilities of reviving battle cards, but the deck was just a little bit too restrictive in terms of not being able to play sand battle cards. So with that in mind, the deck is held back in that regard, but if we get another really good green archetype that can just spam battle cards from the drop area, Frieza Army Healing Pod is probably going to be a no-brainer automatic 4 of in that deck where you're just able to generate a lot of draws. So a card I think should be on your radar for that situation if it were to come up. Then we have Assault of the Androids. I love this card. I think it has great potential because it's essentially a Sensu Bean for yellow Android leaders. We have Android 13 from Evolution Booster. We have Android 17-18 from Set 13, among maybe a few other leaders. But yeah, I think this is a card you're going to want to keep your eye on. Just like Corrin Secret Tower Medicine, it's a card that you'll want to have in your back pocket because it will serve as that Sensu Bean if the format calls for it. If there are a lot of Vegex or Bardock's Crew type decks that go low to the ground and wide with low cost battle cards, this could be a great card to have at your disposal if you're playing, you know, whatever yellow Android leader is popular at the time that this is good in. Then we have the Final Blow. So with this card, I think the really cool thing here is it's a activate battle, so like almost like instant speed, piece of removal. But it is going to take the right deck for it to be really good. So your leader has to be red, of course, and you have to have one of your mono red battle cards. You have to minus 25k it, and then you have to choose one of your opponent's battle cards and give that minus 25. So there's 2 really good ways to get good value out of this card. One, you have to have a battle card with 30k or more power so it doesn't get destroyed by Final Blow. Or 2, you have to be playing 1-drops that replace themselves so you don't necessarily care if they die from Final Blow. And then you can just, you know, minus 25 your opponent's battle card. This is almost like a Shugesh Kid Goku type of combo. Basically a battle interruption that can kill battle cards. Always going to be a very powerful effect. Again, it is just going to take the right strategy for this card to truly shine. And then finally, guys, talking about the Warp Checklands. There are certain instances where you'll want to play these over the regular Checklands, believe it or not. I just don't think that deck has quite come up yet, right? So for instance, I was building a Beerus deck, a set 9 red Beerus leader deck, where I wanted to charge monocolor energy turn 1 to make a turn 1 play, and then I wanted to play a Warp Land later on after I had discarded several cards to, you know, activate my leader draw, right? And that's a really cool strategy. I think you could do the same thing in like a red-green Broly, a Surge Broly, where, you know, you spend a few turns comboing a red, comboing a green, and then by that, you know, second, third turn, you have the cards in your drop area to play the Warp Land instead of relying on a Checkland. Nice thing about the Warp Land is they don't care if you already have red greens in your energy, as where Checklands do. If you draw them at an inopportune time, you can't really charge them effectively. But a Warp Land, as long as you're a leader or you have some sort of outlet that can get cards to the drop, Warp Lands can always be live, and people just aren't really playing them right now. Of course, multicolor is not the greatest right now, but I'm sure in the future it will get more support and it will come back to some level of dominance. So anyways, guys, hope you guys got some cool ideas with the cards we talked about in today's video. I want to know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.